So the last thing I want to show you in this video is how then to apply this NexScript and these analyses to multiple files. I'm going to go ahead and uncomment out the rasters analysis so that you can see that this will work on both analyses together. So my goal here is to tell a NexScript to run these two analyses on all the files within a folder. And so the first thing I have to do is tell it which folder and which files. So we're no longer going to be using the active document, so I'm going to go ahead and comment that out. Now to do multiple files is going to be very similar to selecting the multiple continuous variables. So we're going to do this in a for loop. So the first thing I have to do is tell it which folder and which files. So here I'm going to put in the path of the files that I want to analyze. So here are the test files that I want it to run. So I'm going to copy that path. But in addition, I also need to tell it which files. So they're going to be NexScript test file, and then I'm going to put an asterisk as a wildcard. So that's going to tell it anything with that file name, and then anything that comes after that is also then a .nex file. So if also in this file you have .nex files that were called data file 1, data file 2, it would not run those because it does not have the NexScript test file before some sort of identifier. So now I've told it where the files are, what the files names to look for. I need it to count those files so that I have a number to tell my loop to go through. There's a function for that, get file count, and it's going to count all the files that fit this definition. They have to be in that folder and have that name. And now, since I have the number, I can write my for loop. It's going to be very similar to what we did down here when we were selecting continuous variables. Except for, I'm going to call this iterations, or you could call it, files to run through or something like that. And we're going to start at file number 1, 2, the number of files that met our criteria. And again, we want to do both analyses, so we're going to put the end of the loop after those two analyses. So everything in between here is going to be done for every file that meets this criteria. So because we're not going to be manually opening each file, we need to tell the NexScript to do it itself. To do that, we first need the name of the file. We have the getFileName function. So what this is going to do is get the file name from the list of files to analyze at position iterations. So if iterations is 1, it's going to take the first file name. If the iterations is number 3, it's going to take the third file name in the list, and so on and so on. And then we're going to call the doc, so it's going to be our open document for the purposes of the loop, is going to be the open document of name. So we're telling it to get the name, then open that document and use that as the current active document. And then I also like to print the name. So trace is NexScript's print text function. So every iteration, this will print the name down in the output of the current file it's working on. And I like to do this in case there's an error or something like that, I can tell which file it's working on when it has that error. There's a couple other things we can add. At the very end, if we want to close the document so that we don't see it open in the Neuro Explorer after it's done analyzing, we can use close document. But I'm going to go ahead and comment that out because I want to show you as we run this that it's going to open the 3 different files. Okay, so I'm going to save this. I'm going to go ahead and close everything over in my Neuro Explorer. Now the final thing I'm going to do is, because we do have that name now of your file, in the Send Graphics to PowerPoint function, you can change the slide title here to name, but without the quote. And now it'll insert that name as the slide title. Let's go ahead and run this. And you can see it's going to output the file name down here. And it's going to leave it open in our Neuro Explorer window because we did not tell it to close the document. Okay, so I had 3 test files. I went through the 3 test files. You can see it opened the data and the analyses for each file. And if we go to our PowerPoint, we now should see here we have the data for our 3 different files with the name of the data file as the slide title. And that's all I had to show you guys today. Thank you for listening, and if you do have any other questions or run into errors, feel free to contact us at Plexon through our help desk or at support@plexon.com.